All right, we still have really no idea how the course of this war will go. We do know that the United Kingdom is sick of how it's going thus far and is leading an effort to investigate Russia's so-called war crimes. The UK has, quoting here, galvanized allies to refer atrocities in the Ukraine to the International Criminal Court. 38 nations have now grouped together to expedite this investigation, and this does not have to be sequential with the resolution of the war still going on, now a week old, in Ukraine. Reaction right now from our General Jack Keane, kind enough to join us. General, I know I just hit you with this. It shouldn't be too startling, but it would be concurrent with, condemnations of the war and Russia's actions already. The war criminal issue, though, and citing and going after Vladimir Putin directly. What do you think of that?
No, I think it's absolutely the right thing to do. We shouldn't be waiting until after this horrific event that's taken place. Let's deal with it as it's going on. And also, I mean, it's a way of informing the world what's taking place and developing world opinion against what Putin is doing. I would also say that it's perfectly within our rights to go after the generals that are also using these weapon systems, and that'll put considerable pressure on them. We know from our intelligence sources, and this administration has been very forthcoming about some of the information that we picked up, certainly from Russia, that there is some serious dissension in the ranks of certainly the senior leaders and also policymakers. The frustration that they're having, but I also think the frustration that they're having with their operation is one thing, but I also think that Putin forced this kind of an operation on him. And what I mean by that, something that could be done in 2 or 3 days, topple the government, and not have to deal with becoming an international pariah, end it quickly. But he didn't have the military capability and the resources, and I also think the leadership, to do that very effectively. His general staff is nowhere near, what it should be. But yes, I totally agree with the basic premise. Let's highlight what's going on. Let's get the process going. This is a war criminal. He's been a war criminal since 2000 in Chechnya. He did it again in 2015, where in Chechnya it was 8,000 plus civilians. In Syria, it's tens of thousands of civilians. It's actually horrific. We never really had a lot of knowledge about it because the international media, Neil, largely ignored it. But it was happening in Aleppo and Idlib province. We'd get pieces of it, but not the everyday, unrelenting view of what is taking place almost by the hour, which we're doing here with Ukraine. So, yeah, this is a right move.
We had a former Ukrainian minister on who's joined the fight there, as so many other government officials, present government officials, stars, celebrities of Ukrainian descent. But he had an interesting take on this controversy about this convoy making its way to Kyiv, and reports that some Russian soldiers didn't know their mission or are slowing that mission because they said they had no idea what they were up to. He didn't believe it. He was saying Russians are liars, all Russians are liars. Essentially, he was saying it's a head fake. What did you think of that?
Now, I really don't know. I do know this. I mean, there are serious problems, certainly operationally. The logisticians have not planned this operation to support the very ambitious operational campaign plan of attacking on 4 axes simultaneously. The off-road conditions are certainly a factor because this convoy is road bound. It doesn't even make sense the way it's distributed. You see the vehicles there, 3 abreast. I mean, normally, if this was a U.S. movement taking place here, we'd have traffic going in both directions. We'd have traffic control points. We'd have security right and left. And we'd have traffic going in both directions because you bring supplies forward with trucks, you bring empty trucks back, you take fuel up, you bring empty fuel trucks back, you bring casualties back. I've never seen anything quite like this in all my years in the military, what's unfolding in front of us. I do know they are making some progress, albeit very slow. Neil, they're beginning to envelop Kyiv right now on the west side of the river and also on the east side. They're starting at quite a distance from Kyiv, in excess of 30 miles. That's quite surprising, but they certainly intend to cut the city off. And I do believe at some point we're going to see area attack weapons used in some degree of density to rubble the buildings and certainly to demoralize the inhabitants there and unfortunately take likely hundreds or possibly thousands of casualties, and then move in the combat operation forces to take over Kyiv. It'll be a fierce fight for sure. What they're trying to avoid by using their area attack weapons, which are rocket artillery and long-range artillery, and also obviously gravity bombs and some precision bombs from the air, is avoid the neighborhood by neighborhood, then block by block and building by building fight to take over the city, which is very high casualty producing. That is what they are trying to avoid, because they know full well that the Ukrainians are going to defend not only their neighborhood, they're going to defend every block, and they're going to defend the buildings. And it'll be quite an urban fight. And the Russians have enough experience to know that an urban fight it takes a lot of troops to execute it. It's close combat. It's the most dangerous type of combat, because the defenders obviously have plenty of places to hide with all the buildings and facilities there. They just provide natural cover and concealment as much as fighting positions do outside of a city. So yeah, this is an enormous challenge that's taking place. They're also beginning to encircle Kharkiv, and they're on the outskirts of the city with combat forces. They're circling Mariupol in the south now as well. So this is a pattern that they're having, and eventually they'll move into Mariupol. That's on the coast. That's significant. Kherson, close to the coast, they've taken in the south, and they're going to move from there to Odessa, and that's a major port city in the south, and it's reflected on the map you have on the screen there. Odessa, right to the left of the red area there, and that way they'll and that's a significant objective when they achieve that, because they will have cut off Ukraine's ability to receive supplies from the sea, and certainly that has been the way that their economy flourishes with their exports, certainly using mostly seaborne cargo ships, in taking care of as the breadbasket of Europe, certainly. So that's what's unfolding before our eyes. It's very slow. They brought some of this on themselves, but you got to give credit also to what the Ukrainian resistance is certainly doing to them.
All right, if you're right, no reason to think you're not, General. That resistance really going to have to up the ante for what could be coming very, very soon. General, thank you very, very much. Good catching up with you on this.